Good evening, YouTube. It is a Friday after work. I'm going to show you a quick way, if you have a dipstick for your transmission fluid, to get on a schedule to always have clean transmission fluid. And what we're going to do here is use a vacuum extractor to basically pull out whatever you can reach from the dipstick tube. And you're going to want to do this like every oil change or every other oil change for a few times until you get really clean fluid, and then kind of keep up with it whatever you feel comfortable with. I do it about every 10,000 miles. I only get about 3 quarts out when doing it on my 2003 Tacoma. This method, 3 quarts, and like I said, I do that every 10. When I first got the truck, I did it for the first 3 oil changes. That way I got as much of the fluid out as I could. And it is a very fast, pretty mess-free way to do it. What you're going to need is some sort of vacuum extractor. This here is a Mighty Vac. They do have, there we go, MV7201. They do have like fluid level markings on there. We've got just under 3 liters in here right now, so that way you can judge how much to then pour back in once you've pulled out what you're going to get. Now, this doesn't take the place of changing the filter or anything like that. You want to first find your dipstick, pull it out, know how to check the fluid level properly, whether it's warmed up or not. Get the right fluid. This truck uses Toyota Type 4, and I have the OE stuff here. Note on the dipstick, it does say no need to replace ATF under normal driving conditions. I don't ever buy into that, especially with anything that gets hard use, German cars especially. This car has 183,000 miles on it. I think I bought it right at 145 or so. And yeah, it's a great truck. I want to keep it that way. And this is just one quick maintenance thing to do to get to it. So put your straw as far down the hole as possible, and you'll feel it bottom out. And then it basically like makes a turn when it's in the pan. So you want to kind of find where it's hitting the bottom of the pan. So there must be touching the bottom. We'll confirm that, of course, by starting to pull fluid out. Make sure your pump is set on extract, because some of them, or most of them, are also fluid fillers as well. They can pressurize. So I'm just going to pump it to get some vacuum in the big reservoir here. And what's coming out is pretty red, but it is dark. See if it's, you can see a little tint of red there, and it's still working now. Let me see if I can. Kind of red. The straw is, tinted as well, just from use. But basically, you're going to want to move the straw up and down to find that bottom point, and then once it starts like slurping, making a slurping noise, then you're pretty much done. And we'll just let it do its thing while, for example, you're finishing your oil change or pouring oil, checking your tire pressure, whatever. Just kind of let it work. You don't have to like sit and watch it. And then we'll go through filling it up here in just a second. So you do, as it pulls fluid in, you do need to keep pumping some, just to get the pressure inside the canister back up high so that it goes faster, or else it'll just take a really long time. I think it's been about 10 minutes now. Kind of sounds like it's about to stop. that's the noise you're going to want to listen for. But we are up to 7 liters. What do we start at? 3. So that's 4. I'll just pour 4 quarts in, maybe 3.5. Start it up and check it. All right, so straw is pulled out, evacuator is away. This kind of funnel here with the little neck down, that's a good one for this application because it fits right in that little hole. It is made for transmissions. It is by Lyle. Here is the first bottle of fluid. Good tip on transmission fluid pouring: go really slow, because sometimes it'll like burp out of here, shooting transmission fluid up under the hood, onto your face, onto the engine, all sorts of places. So I'm going to dump in, let's just do 3.5 to start with. Alright, so on this truck, the transmission fluid dipstick has a cold range and a hot range. They're both to be checked when the engine is running. So that gives you 2 options. You can check it when you first start it and then confirm it later when it's warmed up. And that's generally operating temperatures. Newer transmissions are much more specific on the temperature range they want you to check the fluid levels at, and that sometimes requires a scan tool to get there. So it says cool, hard to see here, it says cool on there. You're just gonna have to believe me, and I'm gonna get it right in there with the engine running. So I will start it and then we'll check that. All right, so engine running. You do want to wait like a couple minutes for everything to drip down through the tube, or that can kind of skew your reading. And I like to do this, I like to check 2 or 3 times after I got the level where I think it's going to be. So insert it all the way, let it sit for about a second or 2, then pull it back out, making sure not to splatter. And it is right at the top of the cold range, so pretty much perfect. You can probably put the funnel away now. Grab my cloth there that flew off, and by check a few times, I mean just to make sure your eyes on the stick are correct. You know, clean it, insert it, remove it those 2 or 3 times. Make sure to push it all the way down seated. This one has like a little tab that covers the top of the dipstick, and it is like right at the top. And transmission fluid expands as it gets hotter. That's why there's 2 ranges. So the level, like on newer cars, like I said, is pretty critical, and it's got to be within like a really tight tolerance. But this one is not as critical. All right, last time. Looks good. I'm gonna call that done. One more check. I'm gonna shift to all the gears for a couple seconds, and then I'm gonna check one more time. It isn't really necessary with this way because I didn't really like drain anything from the transmission, just the pan, but it is good practice, so let's do that. reverse, neutral, drive, 2, low, and back up. This just circulates that fluid more around. And my final check after doing that shifting. Yeah, same spot. Like I said, just doing the pan, drain and fill on this model, that's not going to change it, but on certain vehicles, you know, that is required, and it is good practice just to make sure. Well, I hope you learned something. Thank you for hanging out with me after hours today. And that again is a very quick way, clean way to change your transmission fluid if you have a dipstick and a fluid evacuator. Fluid evacuators are also great for things like power steering fluid. Doing the same thing, you could at the next, the next step you could do after the transmission fluid is just suck this out, fill it up, drive the car, and this could be like your maintenance schedule on every other, every third oil change after you've gotten the initial bulk of the fluid clean. You could just do that like forever to really keep things clean. It can pull out brake fluid, it can pull out, coolant. Like if, say the top of this, say the radiator here, the cap was over here and the plastic portion went down that way, and now we're going to change the thermostat. I could stick that straw down here, suck out the coolant. That way it's less of a mess when I go disconnecting hoses or thermostats or water pumps. So fluid evacuator is a great thing to have. They're not too expensive. If you do your own maintenance or any work on cars, it is certainly a good investment. Have a good evening and thank you for watching.